Hello and welcome to the December 14th, 2025 episode of Nick's News. I am your host, Nick, brought to you by Some Budget Studios. That's right, we're putting money into this project of ours. We're live every Sunday, and I thank you all so much for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nick's News YouTube page. This is a program dedicated to bringing good news to counter all of the bad news that we are bombarded with on a daily basis, with the hope of bringing a little bit of joy back to the world. Several of our articles are pulled from sites like Industry Tap, Live Science, Positive.News, and GoodGoodGood.co, but we appreciate everything sent in by you, the Nick's Newsies. Hello and good evening, everybody. Happy to have everyone with us. Hello, Tim. Hello, Becky. Thank you very much, Becky, for sharing us. Always appreciated. Yeah, this is going to be fun. So, News Brew, let's get right into things. It's time to start climbing to the summit, and by summit, I mean the end of the year, because from here on out, we're just going to crank up the ABV. We're going to start off with the absolutely fantastic Chubby Benny from Edge Brewing Company. Chubby Benny is a 13.6% ABV, high-octane, Bourbon Barrel-Aged Imperial Stout, which is specifically brewed with mindo cocoa nibs. So we'll see how mindo is. Let's climb together with Chubby Benny's help. Keep an eye on our Instagram. On every Thursday, we post a sneak peek of our news brew. So if you watch our Instagram, you're going to get to see the last two news brews before we have them on those subsequent Sundays. And boy, is it a sharp climb in ABV. Because it is a Imperial Stout, we are going to use the snifter. The beautiful harpoon snifter. We don't need the Balisong bottle opener, so we'll just blow the gain on the audio. Oh, that went everywhere. Can't let the beer go to waste. Oh my, that was a very full can. Holy crap. It didn't explode, luckily, but it was full. It is full to the top. Holy crap, and you can see it in the camera. This is full to the top. Holy crap, people. River's Edge, what are you doing to me? Alright. Let me see if I can get this pour started. A little lighter than some of the other stouts we've had. It's not quite pouring like motor oil. I'm definitely not going to fit everything in this can into this glass, so we're going to have some excess that I'm going to have to work through as the episode goes on. Extras! Hey, Nico. Whoo! Oh my, what are you? That is some sharp chocolate. Tim, I picked this one up at Siciliano's in Grand Rapids. I'm trying to remember what the price tag was on it. I think it was like $7 or $8. So, yeah, when I buy singles, they tend to be a little more expensive than you'd expect. I think this one was like $7 or $8 for the single. But a lot of my news brews I'll tend to get from Siciliano's here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's just convenient, and Dan Sipka, the owner, is a fantastic guy. Katie as well, staff at Siciliano's, fantastic people. I love them to death, and it's just a great place to buy beer. And cigars. I don't smoke, but they've got a great cigar selection too, so it's really cool. Alright. Shoutouts. So I can start. It looks like oil, says Becky. Hey, Nico. Shoutouts. Graphics by Ashford specializes in graphic design, video editing, and effects, and photo editing. Besides being Nick's News' awesome graphic artist, Grayson bills himself as a bomb-ass bitch. You can contact him through his Instagram, link is in the description of our video. Grayson, graphics by Ashford, our graphic artist for Nick's News. Cheers. Strange is what comes to mind first with this beer. The chocolate is striking, but the body of it is very flat. And very thin. Hey, Daku. Wisdom, the Laysan albatross, turned 75 this year and still holds the record for the world's oldest known bird. She has once again returned to Midway Atoll, National Wildlife Refuge, to nest with her boy toy, EX-25. Researchers estimate she has flown 3.7 million miles, enough to travel from Earth to the moon and back 6 times. For most of her life, she's been alone over the open sea, gliding across the North Pacific and southern Bering Sea, sometimes drifting as far as the Kamchatka Peninsula and Japan. To Wisdom, the Laysan albatross that we've talked about a bit on Nick's News this year, who at 75 is the world's greatest cougar ever. Cheers. It's going to take some getting used to. It's not even super boozy, which is problematic because it is 13.6%. Huh. Hey, Julie. News quote. You need a rock-solid foundation of friends and family to keep you where you need to be. That quote comes from Lily Singh, who was born in 1988 and is a Canadian YouTuber, actress, television host, comedian, and author. And I really like that quote. I spent the weekend with friends in another part of the country, and it was very centering. It was very energizing. It was a wonderful time. I love all of my friends. Thank you all so much for hosting me and for also hanging with me. And yeah, you really need all these connections in your life to keep yourself centered, balanced, at your best. We all bring out the best in one another, especially those close friends and family. So you need a rock-solid foundation of friends and family to keep you where you need to be. Thank you, Lily Singh. Cheers. Tim just said, well, I can send you some pumpkin spice beer, Nick, and I'll throw it in the garbage. If you send me a pumpkin beer prior to October, when I will drink my one pumpkin beer a year, I'll bin it. It'll go right in the trash. I mean, I'll dump the can out and I'll recycle the can. But I ain't gonna drink it until October. And I ain't gonna drink it if I've had another. So make sure if you send me a pumpkin beer, it's specifically for my one a year. Bug update. When I got back from my trip, I came home to very happy bugs. The Cuddle Puddle is foraging very well. I got some nice pictures of them. They're really cute, and they continue to be rock steady with their nightly performances. Ripley is looking very fat and happy. Fat and happy. I gave her a couple crickets before I left, and it looks like she tagged them, so she's doing really well. When I checked on Sue, he's got his claws out. He's hanging out in his hide, but he looks like he might come out. He's got some crickets to chase in there, so I'm hoping he'll make an appearance on an episode. Keep an eye on that tank way back there. We'll see if he comes out of his house ever. Otherwise, all is good in the bug world. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes of our broadcast. Our good news, which is broken up into 4 major categories, and those categories are science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and wholesome notes, the really nice touchy-feely articles that we like to end on. I am going to warn you now ahead of time that the article titles we're using for our 2 wholesome notes are I'm Not Crying, You're Crying, and Not All Heroes Wear Capes. If you need to have tissues ready, make sure you've grabbed them before I say we're getting into the wholesome notes, because they are great articles and they are going to hit you right in the heart. So, fair warning. But we are going to start off in Category 1, Science and Technology, and we called this first article, You Want Fries with That? I'll copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check it out. Taku says, crying is for baby. Glue strong enough to tow a car made from used cooking oil. This was published to Live Science on December 8th of 2025 by Mason Wackley. Taku says, "It's me, I'm baby." Scientists have converted waste cooking oil into various recyclable plastics with exceptional strength, and some were even durable enough to tow a car. Turning non-edible waste into useful polymers is a sustainable way to create new materials, the researchers said in a new study published on November 28th in the Journal of American Chemical Society. Waste streams offer a potentially attractive alternative to biomass-derived feedstocks to make plastics, the researchers wrote in the study. One such waste stream is used cooking oil, where nearly 3.7 billion with a B gallons is generated each year. This waste oil has so far found uses in lubricants, nonstick coatings, and fuel, but much of it still gets thrown away. In the new research, the scientists found a way to convert the waste oil into useful plastic materials that are strongly adhesive and recyclable. Oil consists of long chains of fatty acids, of molecules of glycerol, also known as glycerin. The researchers chemically broke the oil molecules apart and then transformed the products into simpler molecules, so the little building blocks effectively, through a series of reactions. And chemists are straight bonkers, so they're pulling off magic. Combining the final alcohol and ester molecules into various ways allowed the researchers to synthesize a range of polyester plastics. Ester molecules have a carbon atom doubly bonded to an oxygen atom, and also to a single oxygen atom with a carbon side chain, so it's got some feasibility. There's some put together work you can do with an ester molecule. Becky says, "Yay for recycling!" Testing the plastic's properties, including their melting points and crystallinity, revealed that these polymers are similar to low-density polyethylene, or LDPE, a plastic that is commonly used in packaging and plastic bags. The polyesters were also sticky due to oxygen atoms in the polymer that form strong bonds with a range of materials. This is unlike LDPE. I mean, if you pick up a sandwich bag, it doesn't really stick to you most of the time. LDPE is a hydrocarbon with only carbon and hydrogen atoms, so those extra oxygen atoms are the things that are making it sticky. The researchers tested the polymer's adhesive strength by sticking two stainless steel plates together. The plates remained tightly glued, even when up to 270 pounds, or 123 kilograms for folks that haven't landed folks on the moon. That's a lot of weight to throw on there. Towing a four-door sedan on a slightly uphill slope with these glued steel pieces also proved no trouble. So they stuck these two plates and then they hooked those to a towing vehicle and a four-door sedan, and they towed that thing up a hill. Holy crap! This makes these polymers equal to or stronger than the commercially available adhesives that the team also tested. You know, like maybe Gorilla Glue. These properties make these adhesives ideal for applications in laminates and glues used in packaging, automotive components, medical devices, and electronics, the researchers wrote. The polyester plastics were easily recycled into their original components and later remade back into plastic. Several cycles of recycling showed little impact on the plastic's properties, so it's like superplastic. Some plastics could also be recycled along with other common plastics, like high-density polyethylene and polypropylene. This work highlights the potential of non-edible biomass waste as a renewable feedstock for environmentally friendly alternatives to petroleum-based plastics, the researchers wrote. That is really cool. To all these chemists working with waste cooking oil and turning it into like super plastic and ultra glue. Cheers. Dirty Rogue is here, lost track of time. Hello, Dirty Rogue. Thank you for joining us. We call this next one No Passport Needed. And I'll copy and paste it into the chat if y'all want to check it out. Docu says, reduce, reuse, recycle. I love it. Inside the abandoned airport being transformed into a $30 billion sustainable city. This was published to CNN on December 10th of 2025 by Nell Lewis. Downsview Airport in northwest Toronto has undergone a few transformations in its time. About 100 years ago, the first airfield was built, a short runway and an industrial building among farmers' fields. It was the site of de Havilland Canada, a pioneering global aviation company. It became a hub of warplane production during World War II, and in the early 1990s, the airfield was acquired by Bombardier, a Canadian aerospace manufacturer. In 2024, it was shuttered as the firm was relocated. But in early 2026, construction will begin on what will be the site's biggest evolution yet. The 370-acre area is being developed into an urban district housing more than 50,000 residents and 75 acres of green and open space. It will become YZD, a nod to the former airport call sign, a 30-year, $30 billion development and one of the largest projects of its kind in North America. The 2-kilometer, or 1.24 mile for those of us who have landed people on the moon, long runway, the site's centerpiece, will become a pedestrianized park that links several neighborhoods. Or 7 neighborhoods. 7. Each one will be distinct, with its own housing, libraries, shops, schools, and community centers, but the airstrip will act as the connective tissue, tying it all together while respecting and celebrating the aerospace legacy of the site, said Derek Goring, CEO of Northcrest Developments, the firm leading the project. He told CNN that maintaining the history of the site was a key part of Northcrest's vision, and also a huge advantage. One of the biggest challenges with large-scale urban redevelopments is when you don't have anything to start with, they can feel generic, he said. We want to lean into what's there and make as much use of it as possible. It helps bring character and makes it more interesting and unique. Preserving the site's history is not just a sentimental decision, it's a practical one in terms of the environmental footprint. There's a lot of embedded carbon in the existing buildings, and rather than tearing them down and building everything new, there's a big carbon benefit to retaining those buildings, said Goring. The vast industrial airport hangars, built between the 1950s and the 1990s, will be maintained and repurposed into commercial buildings, serving film production, light manufacturing, and clean tech. Their roofs will be covered in grass and plants, which the developer claims will help to absorb rainwater and reduce the risk of flooding, while enhancing biodiversity within the urban center. While the runway will not be retained in its current form, the concrete and asphalt it's made from can be reused as aggregate for roads or pavements, said Goring. Some other airports and military bases across Canada have been found to contain forever chemicals, or PFAS, that could contaminate groundwater, and the developers said that while a small part of the YZD site reflects its historic industrial and military past, they have hired specialized environmental consultants who will help us understand and mitigate any legacy conditions, and they will continue to review the site in collaboration with local authorities. So they're basically going to do everything right to make sure they don't pollute the groundwater. Landscape architecture firm Michael van Valkenburg Associates, or MVVA, is tasked with creating a design concept for the runway after winning an international competition for the project in October. Its goal is to bring nature back into the space. Emily Mueller-DeSilis, partner at MVVA, harks back to the history of the site before it was an airfield or agricultural land, and when it would have been part of the Carolinian forest in southern Ontario. They want to recreate native habitats and invite wildlife back into the site. The nature within the existing site had to be suppressed so that it was safe for aviation operations, she explained, which meant deterring nesting birds despite its location along the Atlantic Flyway, a major migratory route. Renaturalizing the site will have big benefits in terms of water management too, she said. The YZD site is located at the high point of Toronto, between major watersheds. Through the design, MVVA wants to find ways of absorbing as much water as possible so that it reduces flood risk downstream. This will be done through strategic planting and the use of bioswales, which are vegetated channels that collect, filter, and absorb stormwater. That's really cool. Environmental sustainability feeds into North Crest's bigger picture. The huge development will take 3 decades to complete, so it needs to be forward-thinking and prepare for more extreme weather and the potential effects of climate change, said Goring. He added that North Crest has been working with Danish landscape designers SLA, famed for their work on projects such as Copenhagen's waste-to-energy plant-turned-ski slope on the concept of city nature, which is about creating lots of green space in urban environments to improve quality of life. The YZD site is already surrounded by a network of train stations and subways, so the design will make use of these and encourage pedestrianization and car-free alternatives. There will be wide cycle lanes and a last mile bus system. It doesn't mean there won't be cars. The runway is really the only car-free area, said Goring, but we're trying to make walking and cycling the easiest, safest, and most convenient ways to get around. Repurposing abandoned airfields into green parks and sustainable living areas has become something of a global trend, with examples such as Tempelhofer Feld in Berlin and the Ellenaken Metropolitan Park in Athens. YZD is different, claims Goring. The fact that our site sits at the geographic center of the largest metro area in Canada with existing public transit infrastructure means that it's more of a city-building exercise than a park, he said. Constructing of the first neighborhood, the 100-acre Hangar District, including 3,000 new homes, will begin early next year, with completion earmarked for 2031. It will be the first phase of a 30-year transformation, with the districts built one by one and the runway slowly evolving between them all. One of the biggest challenges of the project is its sheer scale and the time it will take to build. Goring says they do not have $30 billion on tap, which is why they intend to build in phases, making an investment, getting a return, and reinvesting. Over such a long development period, he expects current ideas and designs to evolve. The goal is not to be overly prescriptive from the get-go. The world's going to change a lot. We're not trying to decide in 2025 what the future should be 20 or 30 years from now, he said. Ultimately, it's about delivering a really high quality of life, he added, and merging into the current city. We want it to feel like a part of Toronto. That is really awesome. To everybody working to convert Downsview Airport in Toronto into the YZD district, which is really neat. Cheers. Hello, Sanguine. And Daku said, a little hard to bike in winter. They'd have to really provide quality and safe public transportation. Well, from the sound of it, it really sounds like a lot of that is already in place, which will be really awesome down the road to help them. So that's really neat. And producer Donna just threw in, they have a bus system planned that will connect to the city bus system. Awesome. All right, that's going to get us out of science and technology. We're going to move on to category 2, health and medicine. And we call this first one, a gift that will keep on giving. And this one's wild. I'm going to copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check it out. Anonymous $50 million donation helps cover the next 50 years of tuition for medical lab science students at University of Washington. This was published by the Associated Press on December 2nd of 2025, and we pulled it from the site Fortune. An anonymous donation expected to exceed $50 million is helping cover tuition costs for medical laboratory science students at the University of Washington for the next half-century. The dean of the university's School of Medicine, Dr. Tim DeLitt, made the surprise announcement Monday to about 30 grateful undergrads, who will each see 2 quarters worth of tuition covered for their senior year clinical rotations, the Seattle Times reported. "I'm really shocked," said Jasmine Wirtz, eyes filling with tears. "Overwhelmed, extremely grateful." Students in the program are trained to perform clinical lab tests on patient samples, which are used to help diagnose, treat, and prevent disease and other conditions. Their clinical rotations are so time-consuming that it's hard to hold down part-time jobs during them. The gift is the latest in a series of recent donations helping pay for college around the country. Last year, the Albert Einstein College of Medicine in New York received a $1 billion donation from Ruth Gottesman, a former professor and the widow of a Wall Street investor, making tuition there free. I'm actually pretty sure we covered that on a Nick's News episode. Most medical students at Johns Hopkins University no longer pay tuition thanks to a $1 billion gift from Bloomberg Philanthropies. We might have covered that one. I'm not sure. In September at Marshall University in producer Donna said we did cover the Albert Einstein College of Medicine in New York. That's cool. Most medical students at Johns Hopkins no longer pay. We said that one. In September, at Marshall University in West Virginia, President Brad Smith and his wife, Alice Smith, announced a $50 million gift to promote a program aimed at eliminating student debt, in part by covering tuition for West Virginia students with family incomes of $65,000 or less. The University of Washington announcement Monday is worth about $8,000 to $10,000 per student, said UW Medicine spokesperson Susan Gregg. The program will also be able to extend from 70 to 100 students over the next 10 years. The donor, from Washington State, wishes to remain anonymous, but had a relationship with this program, Gregg said. The donor is also a fan of the local burger chain, Dick's. The burgers were piled high atop platters as the students celebrated. The field of medical laboratory services has faced increasing demand and an aging workforce in Washington, according to UW Medicine. Those factors have resulted in an urgent need to grow the pipeline of highly skilled clinical laboratory professionals, the healthcare system said in a news release. "You are the glue, in many ways, of our entire health system," DeLitt told the students. "You are the unsung heroes. You work behind the scenes and that allow all of the healthcare machinery to work." That is really awesome. Producer Donna said, "We cover a lot of education's awesomeness because it is so important and so cool." And it really is. I've got family in education. I respect them to the utmost degree. I respect everybody who goes into education. And yeah, this is really cool. To the anonymous donor who dropped potentially over $50 million at the University of Washington to make sure that students are covered and medical lab science is able to keep going for the next 50 years. Cheers. Topping off my drink. All right, we called this next one Mocha in the Morning, Tea in the Evening, Apples at Supper Time. I'll copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check it out. Researchers discover a delicious way to reduce the health risks of sitting. This was published to SciTech Daily on December 10th of 2025 by the University of Birmingham. Sitting for long stretches is a common part of modern life. Young adults are estimated to spend around 6 hours per day seated, and this amount of inactivity has been shown to reduce how well blood vessels function. Earlier work has demonstrated that even a small 1% drop in vascular function, measured by brachial flow-mediated dilatation, or FMD, is linked to a 13% increase in the risk of cardiovascular disease. Conditions such as heart disease, strokes, and heart attacks all fall within this category. Researchers in the new study wanted to determine whether dietary choices, particularly foods naturally rich in flavonols, could help protect the vascular system from the effects of sitting without breaks. Flavonols are a group of polyphenol compounds found in several plant-based foods, including fruits, tea, nuts, and cocoa beans. Previous studies have shown that these compounds can benefit cardiovascular health, including helping protect blood vessels during times of mental stress. Daku just said apples also contain the chemical that slows aging. I'm going to eat more apples. I like that. The new research has been published in the Journal of Physiology. Dr. Caterina Rendiro, assistant professor in nutritional sciences at the University of Birmingham and the study's lead author, explained, "Whether we are sitting at desks, behind the wheel of a car, on a train, or on the sofa, reading a book or watching TV, we all spend a lot of time seated. Even though we are not moving our bodies, we are still putting them under stress. Finding ways to mitigate the impact that sitting for uninterrupted periods has on our vascular system could help us cut the risk of developing cardiovascular diseases." To investigate whether flavonols could help maintain vascular health, the researchers examined the effects of consuming them before a controlled sitting period. 40 healthy young men took part. 20 of them had high fitness levels, and the other 20 had lower fitness levels. Each participant consumed either a high flavonol cocoa drink, which was 695 milligrams of total flavonols per beverage, or a low flavonol cocoa drink, or 5.6 milligrams of total flavonols per beverage. So 695 versus 5.6. Before completing a 2-hour sitting trial. Women were not included in the study because hormonal changes during the menstrual cycle may influence how flavonols affect vascular function. The researchers note that this should be explored in future studies. Before and after the sitting period, the team collected several vascular measurements, including FMD in the superficial femoral artery and the brachial artery, arterial resting shear rate and blood flow, systolic and diastolic blood pressure, and leg muscle oxygenation. Participants in both fitness groups who consumed the low flavonol beverage before sitting showed declines in FMD in the arteries of their arms and legs. The low flavonol drink was also associated with increased diastolic blood pressure, reduced shear rate and blood flow, and lower muscle oxygenation in the legs. These findings indicate that higher fitness levels do not protect against the vascular effects of uninterrupted sitting. However, the group that contained the high flavonol cocoa did not experience declines in FMD in either the arm or leg arteries. This is the first study to demonstrate that flavonols can prevent sitting-induced vascular dysfunction in healthy young men. Dr. Sam Lucas, professor of cerebrovascular, exercise, and environmental physiology at the University of Birmingham and co-author, said, "Our experiment indicates that higher fitness levels do not prevent the temporary impairment of vascular function induced by sitting when only drinking low flavonol cocoa. Importantly, after the high flavonol drink, both fitter and less fit participants kept their FMD the same as it was before sitting for 2 hours." The findings also show that the vascular benefits of flavonol intake are not influenced by baseline cardiorespiratory fitness. This suggests that flavonols may help support vascular health across a wide range of activity levels. Alessio Danielle, PhD student at the University of Birmingham, explained, "It is actually quite easy to add high flavonol foods to your diet. There are cocoa products available in supermarkets and health stores which are processed through methods that preserve flavonol levels. If cocoa isn't your thing, fruit like apples, plums and berries, nuts, and black and green tea are all common kitchen staples and are readily available." Dr. Caterina Rendiro concluded, "Our research shows that consuming high flavonol foods and drinks during periods spent sitting down is a good way to reduce some of the impact of inactivity on the vascular system." Given how common sedentary lifestyles have become and the increased risk this can have to vascular health, Using flavanol-rich food and drink, especially in combination with breaking up periods of inactivity by going for a short walk or standing up, could be a good way to enhance long-term health, no matter the individual's fitness level. That's really cool. And I like that. That there's also different options, too. To everybody at the University of Birmingham that ran this study and found out that things like cocoa and berries and nuts, apples, and green and black tea, just anything high in flavanol, can help with your cardiovascular health in regards to how much we sit every day. Cheers. That's really neat. That's going to get us out of health and medicine. We're going to move on to category 3, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals. And this first article we called Beep Boop, Do Not Be Alarmed, I'm Here to Plant. I'll copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. Or check it out on your time. Either or. After wildfires destroyed their local forests, these students invented a tree-planting spider robot to save them. This was published on December 1st of 2025 to goodgoodgood.co by Cameron Baker. Engineering duo Marta Bernardino and Sebastio Mendoca are two 19-year-old college students who were inspired to create a solution after wildfires led to repeated deforestation near their homes in Lisbon, Portugal. Wildfires have consistently affected Portugal, with the latest reports showing that 1.2 million acres of forest have been burned between 1980 and 2023. About 54% of the country's territory. We didn't have many engineerings today, did we? I guess you didn't have to deal with that one in the drinking game. With these fires often taking place in rugged terrain, difficult for forestry workers to access, replanting the trees seemed like a hopeless endeavor. That is, until Trovador stepped in. Trovador is the name of Bernardino and Mendoca's robot, a six-legged creation enabled with artificial intelligence. It's not AI. To navigate steep and dangerous terrain and plant trees across Portugal. It's named after D. Dinis, King of Portugal, also known as the Troubadour King or Trovador in Portuguese. Dinis was instrumental in the planting of Lyra's Forest, one of the greenest spaces in the country. Thank you, producer Donna. Troubadour, I should know how that's pronounced. Nico is going to barbecue me for that one. Troubadour, thank you. But those green spaces are now hard to reach. From my research, around 60% of the Portuguese green areas are in cliffs and mountains, making reforestation initiatives too risky to perform, Bernardino said in a 2024 video. So I decided to make a difference. The inspiration was no longer a feeling of loss, but a clear-eyed recognition of a flawed system, she told Smithsonian Magazine this year. We saw that existing solutions, from volunteer planting to drone seed dropping, were failing to meet the scale and complexity of the problem. Troubadour and instrumental. Good pun! In contrast to drone-based aerial seeding, which uses thousands of seeds with lower precision, which can waste natural resources, the targeted approach of the Troubadour invention makes success more of a guarantee. Bernardino and Mendonca began prototyping Troubadour in 2023 using recycled parts and costing a total of about 15... I don't remember what that cost symbol is. I'm going to look it up real quick. It's like a C with some squiggles through it. The euro. That's right. Totaled out to about 15 euro. It was able to plant saplings 28% faster than humans, with a 90% survival rate and no post-planting care required. It's something Bernardino said is vital to not just the ecosystem, but to Portugal's people. Since the early 2000s, Portugal has lost over half of its forest cover, triggering erosion, water loss, and biodiversity collapse, Bernardino told Smithsonian Magazine. This crisis hits rural communities hardest, places like Fundão and Alentejo, where forests provide food, water, income, and cultural identity. As ecosystems vanish, so do livelihoods. The duo has begun scaling up, becoming finalists of National Geographic's Slingshot Challenge with an accompanying $10,000 grant in 2024, and now building out a more streamlined prototype. They also received Europe's top award for robotics for sustainability, the youngest to ever do so. This recognition is leading them to refine their final product, one capable of climbing 45-degree slopes while detecting and avoiding boulders or other obstacles in the way. The C with the squiggle is called the Cedile. Interesting. Thank you, Daku. Troubadour can carry and plant up to 200 saplings per hour and has a light robotic movement, barely leaving any indent in the ground. The robot is also enabled with sensors that analyze soil health, ensuring healthy conditions before a sapling is even dropped to the ground. It also uploads real-time GPS coordinates of each plant, as well as data like soil humidity and its own battery life to a cloud, where the team can monitor conditions remotely. Trees are vital, Bernardino wrote in a blog post announcing the original prototype. They give us oxygen, store carbon, stabilize the soil, and give home to the world's wildlife. For the health of our planet and its inhabitants, their preservation and protection should be a priority for all of us. But to fully bring Troubadour to market, cost concerns must be addressed. To make implementation more feasible, Bernardino and Mendonca plan to market the robot as a service instead of an individual product for sale. Clients like municipalities, insurers, forestry firms, and NGOs can open our app, outline a polygon, choose native species, and receive a quote, Bernardino told Smithsonian Magazine. Pricing is expected to be a big step up from the current methods, up to 6 times cheaper than manual crews and 4 times more cost-effective than drones once seed wastage is factored in. As the inventors finalize field tests and make adjustments to their technology, their goal is to deploy it for large-scale restoration projects in 2026. And it all started right in Bernardino's backyard. I'm from Portugal, and I love my home, she wrote in 2023. It is really concerning watching forests go from a live green to gray in seconds, and watching them go from gray to brown so slowly. I built this robot as an urge to replant my country and a dream to die seeing all Portuguese green landscapes again. That is really cool. That is awesome. To Marta Bernardino and Sebastião Mendonca, the two 19-year-old college students who have built the Troubadour, a robot that goes around and replants and just plants seedlings and does an amazing job of it, seedlings and saplings. Cheers. And there's another correction of my pronunciation. Daku has said the C with the squiggle is the cedille in French and cedilla in Portuguese. Nice. This next one we called 300 Heckin' Good Boys and Counting, and we believe this is a follow-up to an article we talked about before. I'll copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check it out. Nonprofit using service dogs to curb veteran suicide celebrates 300th pairing. This was published to OPB on November 29th of 2025 by Troy Brynildson. The bouts of depression started small for Mario David Stephen Graham Tutt. At first, they dwelled a couple days, but came to last for weeks or months. Combined with post-traumatic stress disorder from his 9 deployments for the U.S. Navy, Graham Tutt said he found himself a couple years ago contemplating ending his life. I started telling people, reaching out to people I hadn't talked to, and telling them I loved them. Blah, 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 he said. All these things because I was literally planning to end it. As he recounted those dark moments on a Friday afternoon in November, a 3-year-old black Labrador retriever named Caden clung to his legs. Graham Tutt and Caden were connected through Northwest Battle Buddies. Founded in Vancouver, Washington in 2012, the organization aims to curb high suicide rates among military veterans by pairing them with trained service dogs. The dog's training is tailored to the specific needs of the person they're working with, but they're all taught to disrupt panic attacks and help veterans feel safer in crowds and other stressful situations. Graham Tutt credits Caden and the organization for saving his life. The nonprofit recently celebrated its 300th graduation. Founder and CEO Shannon Walker said she was proud but highlighted the veterans' journey to graduate. They earn these dogs, Walker said. They're literally fighting for their lives. About 22 veterans per day die by suicide, according to the Department of Veteran Affairs. Walker, a professional dog trainer by trade, formed Northwest Battle Buddies upon learning how impactful dogs can be for struggling veterans. The service dogs spend 5 months in training before even meeting their new owner, Walker said. Their heightened senses of smell and chemical detection make them ideal for spotting seizures, panic attacks, and even low blood pressure for diabetics. The veterans also undergo 5 weeks of training prior to graduation. We teach the veteran how to interact with the dog to reinforce the behavior, Walker said. It's like on-the-job training for the dog and the veteran. Graham Tutt didn't seek out the nonprofit at first. The nonprofit had done a presentation at his work, and he took their business card. Months later, in the grips of a depressive episode, he said he tore apart his house to find the card. I had lost so much of my identity and who I was while I was going through my depression, my PTSD flare-ups, he said. Graham Tutt volunteers for the nonprofit now, he said. He credited it and his dog with getting his life back on track. I love this organization, so I'm going to continue to give until I can't give any more, Graham Tutt said. Note, if you're a veteran in crisis or concerned about one, please contact the Veterans Crisis Line to receive 24/7 confidential support. There are several ways to reach responders, and you don't need to be enrolled in VA benefits or health care to access them. You can dial 988, then press 1, text 838-255, or chat online at veteranscrisisline.net/chat, which is in the article. In general, if you or someone you know may be considering suicide, contact the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988, or the Crisis Text Line by texting HOME to 741-741. To Mario David Stephen Graham Tutt and Caden, the dog that he was paired with, and to everybody involved with Northwest Battle Buddies, celebrating the 300th graduation, a veteran and a dog, a heckin' good boy, that's basically helping them see another way to keep on going. Cheers. We probably could have called that one I'm Not Crying, You're Crying, to be honest. I teared up a little bit on that. I don't know about you. Speaking of which, though, Nate in the chat just said, unconditionally bring love. And hugs from Becky. Unconditionally bring love. That's what brings you back from the edge, Nate says, and I echo that sentiment. Depression hits everybody differently and can be very difficult to see in others, especially if we're suffering from it. Remember your friends, remember your family, remember your loved ones. And it can be one of the hardest things to put aside pride Or maybe to put aside the mentality of, you're better than this, you can beat this on your own, you're stronger than it. Set that aside. Contact those friends, those family, those loved ones. We are only stronger because of the connections that we make. So, utilize them. Your friends rely on you and you on them for strength. And now that we're all crying, we're going to get into category 4, the wholesome notes. And our first article in this section is, I'm not crying, you're crying. So, get ready. I'll copy and paste this into the chat for y'all to read along. Crypt says amen to that. Thank you, Crypt. Oh, I'm already starting. Over $1.7 million raised for 88-year-old Army vet working in grocery store. This was published to Global News on December 5th of 2025 by Rachel Goodman. An 88-year-old Army veteran from Michigan who gained internet fame after a video of him explaining that he had to work in a grocery store to make ends meet went viral, is set to receive almost $2 million thanks to thousands of strangers who donated to fund his retirement. Ed Bombas caught the attention of Australian content creator Sam Weidenhofer, known for his videos about spreading kindness, after a person familiar with the store where Bombas works nominated him in the comments of one of Weidenhofer's videos. In the now viral TikTok that was posted on Monday, Weidenhofer approaches Bombas, asking him his age and why he still has to work. Bombas said he had to return to work after his wife died from an illness 7 years ago, and his former employer, which he identified as General Motors, went bankrupt and stopped paying his pension. Bombas also said he served in the military in 1966. When his pension was eliminated, his wife lost her health care coverage, Bombas explained. To pay for her care, he had to sell his house and all of his other property. Once my wife died, I didn't have enough income to pay for my home or all the other bills I had accumulated because of my wife's illness, Bombas told ABC Detroit station WXYZ, explaining that he first took a job at a hardware store before becoming a cashier at a Meijer grocery store, where he currently works 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. At the end of the TikTok, Weidenhofer asked for permission to share Bombas' story so people could help him out, and then directed followers to a GoFundMe for the grocery store worker. By Wednesday, people had donated over $1 million to Bombas. As of publication time, that number sits shy of $1.8 million. In just under 36 hours, we've shattered every expectation, raising over $1 million for Ed Bombas, a remarkable 88-year-old veteran who has been working 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, just to get by, Weidenhofer wrote on Instagram alongside a photo of him and Bombas smiling. Weidenhofer told WXYZ that Bombas' story inspired him to fly from Australia to meet with him and to set up an online fundraiser. No 88-year-old in America should have to work because they need to, and that breaks my heart, he said. I just wanted to give him a chance to retire, he added. You know, at least have some comfort. Hello, Mr. Crypto. I'm not crying. You're crying. To Ed Bombas, 88-year-old veteran, currently working, and to content creator Sam Weidenhofer, who shined a light on his story and created a GoFundMe for Ed, and to all the people who donated to Ed, to see that this man gets a chance to retire. Cheers. I got some stuff to read in the chat. Producer Donna said, remember to actually be there for your friends who do have the courage to come to you. I'm sorry doesn't help as much as asking questions and talking and making the person feel seen. I echo those entirely. If somebody comes to you and says they're in trouble, it doesn't matter if you don't have any spoons. Listen to that statement. There's a lot of strength that has to be utilized to say I need help or I'm not doing well. And when that time comes, dig deep and have that strength to match and to ask questions and to be supportive. You don't know when you may be the one that saves a life just because you asked a person to say more and to elaborate. Daku said, what a barbaric country to allow things like this to become so common. And then Nathan said, I'm going to say something controversial. Nathan is a veteran, a very active one. I don't think that entitles he says, I don't think that entitles us to anything. Was a choice, but with a capital D, we have a duty to all of our seniors. And I agree with that 100%. Big thing there. It is a choice to be a veteran, and there is not an entitlement with that. But there is an understanding, and especially for our seniors, there is an understanding to care for our elderly, and to make sure everyone's taken care of. So, thank you very much, everybody who commented on that one. I appreciate you all. Last article of the night that we have is Not All Heroes Wear Capes article. Sorry. That beer is going to get to me. I will copy and paste this into the chat for y'all to read along. Or to check out at your leisure. Checking the chat to see how things are going. I really appreciate everybody. I really appreciate everybody chatting, all the comments, and all the discussion that we have during next news episodes. This show started off way back in 2016 as just a way to chat and has evolved into this amazing thing, but it hasn't lost its roots in that at the end of the day, it's all a discussion about good news and things going on in the world and also supporting one another. So to all of you, cheers. I think we have a bot or a spammer in the chat. Producer Donna, can you take care of that? I'm going to move on with this article. School bus driver knits hats for every student on her route. I hope they know somebody loves them. This was published on December 2nd of 2025 to goodgoodgood.co by Cameron Baker. Tina Hutcherson has been a school bus driver for the Putnam City School District in Oklahoma for over a decade. And at 63, she has been a knitter and crocheter for over 50 years. A mom of 4 of her own children, Hutcherson said she has knitted or crocheted since she was about 12. For a recent birthday, her daughter gifted her a new knitting machine, and it has made it even easier for her to churn out cozy items like hats and scarves. So easy, in fact, she realized she could keep all of her students warm this winter. With her new machine, she told KOCO News 5 it takes about 30 minutes to make a winter hat. I said, "Oh Lord, I'm going to make every one of them babies on the bus a hat," she said. I just don't want nobody to be without, especially when they're riding with me. In total, Hutcherson drives around 100 students to school every day, from elementary to high school. So far, she has knit and distributed 25 hats to elementary schoolers, who then returned with handwritten thank you notes for their beloved bus driver. Plus, she lets the students pick what colors they want, and she also makes the hats reversible. She has no intention to slow down. Dirty Rogue says, well, you're a real streamer now. You got a spam bot. Thanks, Rogue. I got enough yarn to make any hats I want to make, and colors, Hutcherson said. I've been stocking up since I was 12, so if these kids need a hat, coat, I like making ponchos for them, I don't care, they're gonna get it. According to Nonprofit Quarterly, an estimated 2 out of every 5 children in the United States are clothing insecure. This means they don't have access to adequate, appropriate, or affordable clothing. For some, this means they go without cold weather coats and accessories, or wear clothes that simply don't fit. Hutcherson's goal is to keep her students warm in the winter, yes, but most importantly, to keep them feeling cared for. I just hope they take away that somebody loves them, and that's all, she said. And if they don't have any love at home, they gonna get on this bus in the morning. They always know they can always talk to me about anything. I want them to be safe. Hutcherson has been posting her creations to Facebook, including some other hats she's made for co-workers and community members. But the project for her bus babies seems to be one she's especially proud of. I'm so happy with my knitting machine for helping me with this project for my good babies on my morning route. I'm hoping they will use them and keep their heads warm for winter, she wrote in a post. I'm praying for all the families that are having hard times these days, she added in another post. Love is in the air. Tatina Hutcherson, a school bus driver for the Putnam City School District in Oklahoma, who's been driving bus for over a decade. Some heroes don't wear capes. But she could knit or crochet one if she wants. Taku says, my mom and I used to work for a bus company. So many drivers for these kids are kind like this. They know that their smile and high fives are the only ones some of these kids get. Nate says, those that have the least give the most. And I am wondering how to get rid of a spammer. There we go. I just hid their messages. I'm not going to accept spam bots and bad news or anything in our chat. Well, that was awesome. 8 great articles tonight. Fantastic stuff. Good news and joy. And, just a heads up, that is our last good news episode for this year, because our last 2 episodes for 2025 are going to be a chat and chill next weekend. And the weekend after that, the 28th, the last episode of the year, is going to be the year in review, where we go over our numbers and we see how much, Nick Snows has grown over the year. And just how cool this keeps getting. So, thank you very much. Nate just said, great job, Nick. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. My partner in crime. Yeah, gin and tonics. Nate asked gin and tonics. It was brought up on a previous Nick's News episode if we would branch out from the news brew and do maybe a cocktail. I have 2 news brews set up for the rest of the year. Maybe Maybe on the year in review, if I finish my news brew before the end, I'll make a gin and tonic live. But don't count on that because I am super. Producer Donna just said he's very excited about this beer coming up. I am very excited about the last two news brews of this year. The first, again, keep an eye on our Instagram so you can see them if you want a sneak peek. I found this next one at a Benny's in Downers Grove, Illinois, when I was over there recently, and it is crazy. I've never had anything like it, so I'm looking forward to that one. And then the last beer for 2025 is very special, and I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to that one, so stay tuned. But again, thank you all for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nick's News YouTube page. Again, we're live every Sunday. Our next episode will be on December 21st, 2025, and it will be a chat and chill. Producer Donna and I will be on hand. We will both be here in the chat. And if y'all want to send her some questions, by all means, do so. If you want to ask about Nick's News, if you just want to chat, if you just want to have a great conversation, send some stuff her way, and I'll tell you how to do so in a moment. We encourage participation, so if you feel inclined, you can post suggestions for news brews, shout-outs, news quotes, and especially good news articles that we can present on future episodes of our show. If you send us a bunch, try to spread them out across our four major categories, which again are science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and wholesome notes, like the really nice ones we had tonight. You can message us on Facebook or Instagram, or email us at somebudgetstudios@gmail.com. Links are all in the description of this video. Feel free to like, subscribe, or comment on our content across Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok to get good news and joy out into all the algorithms. Please, no SEO advertisements or improvements. We're not interested. We have a presence on every platform that we want to be on: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And we are just trying to spread good news and joy. And thanks to all of you, we continue to do so. It really is something else to see how everything keeps growing. Thanks to all of you. We do minimal advertising, so everything's like word of mouth, and y'all spread the good word. So thank you all. And always, as always, thank you again. Have a great night. I love you all. Have a great night, and I will play us out.